I want to go back to this idea of freedom of speech, but take it into the internet some more, all right? How does it all work out? Do we have freedom of speech on the internet? Let's ask that question to ourselves. What laws do we have that give us certain freedoms? Let's talk about it, because it does depend on the country that you live in as well, doesn't it? So here's the question of the day. Does our right to freedom of speech, which we have from the Constitution, right, or from the amendments at least, does that apply on the internet? Big question. All right. The internet is a wonderful large place. Parts of the internet are not in the U.S. Let's figure this out. All right. So I guess the answer, at least in this country, is more or less yes. We do have some freedom of speech on the internet, though a lot of laws have been passed over time, and some have been struck down, having to do with censorship. So people have tried to censor what goes on the internet, the kinds of things that can be posted, stuff like that. Usually the idea is we want to keep things safe for the kids, stuff like that, but that it does infringe upon freedom of speech, and so a lot of those laws have been struck down. But yeah, people are trying to censor, and other people don't want that. So that's something to think about. So a lot of that has been thrown out in court, and in general, you're free to speak to a point. Yeah, it's like fire in a movie theater kind of thing. Exactly. Yeah. So in general, you can stay anonymous as well. Mostly, you don't have to put your name associated with your TikTok account or whatever. That is something that other countries require. You have to, in certain countries, you have to tie your ID number into your accounts on certain places like social media. So that's something that we don't have right now, which is potentially nice. And so yeah, let's talk about all these topics in detail. Let's start with censorship, because that's a hot topic, and I think we should talk about it. So what does that mean, right? How do you censor something on the internet? What's the equivalent? You're not banning a book, you're banning a website. Yeah, that's essentially what's happening. You're banning an app, right? So let's talk about that. Yeah, you can censor whatever you want. What's that? That's technically true. Certain kinds of ads may be inappropriate and not able to be put on social networks. I think that's definitely a thing. Yeah, that's totally possible. Any other ideas about censorship? Yeah, that's absolutely. Even the ads for the people who want to make the money, sadly, might be censored. But yeah, you can censor whatever you want if you have some sort of control. If you own your social media service, if you're Instagram, you can censor stuff because you own the service. If you are a country, you can also require companies to censor things for you, at least until laws get struck down and things like that. So okay, let's pick on China. Let's not pick on the U.S. Because that's extra close to home, I guess. But yeah, let me fix my pens here. China, for example, does not allow a lot of Western websites. Most of them. China has banned in the country Facebook, Wikipedia, Google, all these things that we love to use, right, in the U.S. They're all U.S. companies, or at least Wikipedia is based in Western countries, at least. They can do that. That's what they wanted. They have banned those things because they don't have any control over them, and they would like to have control. So there used to be a Google.cn. .cn is for China. That used to exist even, and it was following Chinese law. If you were doing searches on the Chinese version of Google up until 2010, then Google was censoring whatever the Chinese government wanted them to censor. Certain keywords were not given back the same search results that they would have given if you searched for the same thing in the U.S. So yeah, that's interesting, right? Anything China wanted taken down, got taken down. Wanted taken down, got taken down. It makes you wonder, what's been taken down in the U.S. version of Google? We don't know. And then they gave up on this. They're at least their argument for a while was all right, we should give some access. Some access is better than no access to the Chinese people. Honestly, they probably just wanted money, but at least they tried to give a service and help people search for certain things rather than others. And then they kind of gave up, and they only allowed Google.hk to exist, which was for Hong Kong, because Hong Kong was a bit separate to China for a while. They came back close together recently. So I think this one still exists probably, and it has like there's different rules if you live in Hong Kong. Like there's different laws, so a little bit more lenient, I guess. So there's that. But yeah, you can censor stuff. If you are a government, you can ask people to take stuff down. That can be part of your laws, and you know for sure that that happened here with TikTok, right? I don't know, like if I should say considered anymore, considered or is in the process of banning TikTok. Like that's still up in the air, right? They've been doing weird things. They banned it for like a day and then it came back, but like yeah, it was off the App Store for a while because even those companies like Google and Apple, they had no clue. Like they were trying to follow the law that was still in place because the law is on the books. But then yeah, it's just all up in the air. So it's either banned or not banned right now. We're not sure. We'll see what happens. But yeah, that's something that you can do as a government. That's weird to think about, right? So maybe we don't have as much freedom of speech as we thought we did. So yeah, you can shut down websites. You can shut down pieces of search results on a website. You can shut down apps. Like this is all possible, and it makes you think, right? What's been done in the U.S. that we don't know about? So okay, you can sometimes even shut down the entire internet if you want to. Right? That's crazy. So certain countries have done this in response to like large-scale protests. That's totally happened before, and this is possible because either the countries, a lot of countries, they own the entire infrastructure for the internet, or they are able to tell all the companies that like work on the internet in that country to take stuff down. So they like usually a lot of these countries that I'm about to tell you, they have access to the internet themselves. It's a state-owned thing, which is different to the US, right? Access to infrastructure. And at least in the US, you have a bunch of different competing companies that own access to the internet, right? You got AT&T, you got Comcast, you got all those things. So it's a little bit harder to shut down the internet in the US, in theory. But yeah, certain countries like Egypt and Turkey, they have shut down the entire internet, and there's plenty of other examples of that. So like in 2011, there was that Arab Spring, if you remember reading about that or hearing about that in like a history class. A lot of protests, especially in Egypt. And so the government, they went and they shut down the whole internet because they didn't want people to like get together and plan their protests, which is wild, right? That's crazy. We don't like that. That's limiting their freedom, but that's what they were using to communicate, and so the government took it down, just shut down the whole internet. That gets rid of everything, right? So that's a thing. In 2016 in Turkey, there was a coup, and the country blocked social media. They blocked all the social media websites that people were using to organize. So that's unfortunate, right? I don't know. At least as a U.S. citizen, I think that is sad that you lose access. So people were using social media to organize. And so, yeah, that countries have that ability. Is that good? Is that bad? What do you think? Ethical dilemmas, right? Formulate an opinion. Think about it. So, yeah, that's censorship. Keep that in the back of your mind. And let's now talk about anonymity. Because if you want to like post stuff on the internet, sometimes like you want to say stuff and like you don't want your words to be traced back to you for one reason or another, right? So do we have that? Should people be even allowed to be anonymous on the internet? Like just make up a brand new random username, post stuff. Should that be allowed? Especially if you say mean things? Let's figure this out. So yeah, let's talk about anonymity. There is a fun example from the textbook about South Korea. So you know that South Korea is very close, a small country, close to North Korea. They are not in the best of relationship with each other, right? And so South Korea, they wanted to have, like on Google Maps, they wanted to have the presidential house, like that's their version of the White House. I think it's called the Blue House, which is cute. They wanted their presidential house and all their power plants and all their military bases to be wiped out of Google Maps. And so if you go there, at least when I took the screenshot, like on the satellite view, it's there, but on the map kind of view, it's not there. Interesting. So they wanted all that stuff hidden for safety purposes. Should that be allowed? It's a physical thing. You could just learn the address, right? Learn the GPS coordinates yourself, couldn't you? But they wanted that. They wanted it to be harder to find the place. Weird, right? So like what? this is a ethical question. Should anonymity be allowed for certain situations like this? So like what would our boys say is probably the first thing we should reach towards. Like what would Kant say? What would Mill say as a utilitarian? Like how would they think about these things? So Kant, for example, would probably be pro anonymity. Right? It's a hard word to say. And I think because like he really likes individual freedoms, right? Don't use people as a means to an end. You can do your own thing. Like I would always want like to be safe, and so if this is a way to be safe, then I think it's okay. It's okay to hide yourself. So I think that Kant would be pro anonymity. It's okay to hide yourself and block yourself on the internet. And then what would a utilitarian think? Like maybe yes, for safety purposes, like the president's an important person. We don't want it to be very easy to find that person and potentially do bad things. But on the flip side, maybe like for tourism purposes or just if it's a public institution, it should be available for everyone to use. Like you could argue no at the same time. Like there's pros and cons to all of this. But yeah, even anonymity. Should we have it? Should we not have it? They wanted to be anonymous, even the president. Crazy. All right, so let's bring this back to the U.S. again. So like, what do we have that ensures our anonymity in the U.S.? So we have like the Constitution, right? What have we talked about? The people who were starting to build the Constitution, they wrote the Federalist Papers. If you've like watched Hamilton or something, you'll learn about that in history class too, right? So they were written by a bunch of our founding fathers, and they were the Federalist Papers. If you don't know, they were published anonymously. All these people trying to write essays to argue in favor of the Constitution that we have now, they published those papers anonymously. It's still up in the air whether like some people wrote like. It's hard to tell who wrote what. Like they've been doing analysis based on their word usage. We don't even know for sure who wrote which Federalist paper, right? That's insane. So they were published anonymously. So like the founding fathers were big on anonymity, which is a good thing for us maybe, right? That ensures our anonymity. So they did that because they wanted their essays to be judged on the basis of their ideas, not their big names. They were popular back then, of course. They didn't want their names attached to it so that like people would judge the ideas and not the person, which is interesting and I think noble. And then also it was just like common at the time to publish your things anonymously, which is cool, right? So that's from the start of our country, people have liked anonymity. Interesting. Does that mean we still have it, I guess, is now the next question. And then you've probably read plenty of books in an English class, like, for example, Jane Eyre, like the Bronte sisters, they used pen names. Right? They because it was like frowned upon for women to write books for weird reasons, and so a lot of them used male-sounding pseudonyms back in the day. Right? That was a thing. So they published anonymously, and they still were able to get their work out during a time when they may not have otherwise been able to. Right? That's unfortunate. So yeah, does that mean we still have it? So it looks like our country was founded on principles of like pro-anonymity. Is that a good thing? Is that a bad thing? What do we think? No thoughts, head empty. I'm too tired. I think it's interesting. Right? Food for thought for sure. So let's see. What do I want to do next? So yeah, anonymity. Do we have it on the internet? Let's see. Here's a fun thing. We're all California citizens. I have a fun website for us to go to. Please go to CaliforniaBirthIndex.org. That's the name of the website. Please click there. And then here's the website. And it is a very interesting website. We will look at it together. What's there is some people got together and they gathered a bunch of birth records of people born in California from like the start of the 1900s all the way up until I think 95. So a lot of you probably won't be on here. You can search for yourself. You can try at least. A lot of you, unless you're older, you won't be on here, but maybe your parents were. If they were born in California, your grandparents, if they were born in California, search for them. They might be on there. So a bunch of birth records are public domain right now. It's just available for anybody to search on the internet. And so let's look up my favorite artist, Phoebe Bridgers. We love her. And like she was born in California. And here she is, Phoebe Bridgers. And there she comes up. We have her middle name. Now we know that. Now we know the county where she was born. We know her birthday. We know her mother's maiden name. So all this stuff is, of course, on her Wikipedia page now. But like back in the day, like people didn't have their access to her mother's maiden name. But apparently that's public knowledge. That's public records. It's insane. Public domain. Look up your parents. Also, she has a brother, but he is younger. But if you look up somebody like a parent or something, it will also say potential, like if there's other people like with the same last name and the same mother's maiden name, it'll say like potential siblings and stuff like that, which is really cool to think about. So like I'm on here. Look up your parents. Look up your grandparents. All this stuff is public domain. How do we feel about that? Yeah, I'm on there. It's crazy. I'm on there, my sister's on there, and it says like, oh, you're probably related to this person. Crazy. Is this okay? Is this a good thing? Yeah, if you're still alive. You're 30. Exactly. So, you're the same age as Phoebe Bridgers. Nice. So, okay. A lot of people, right? Your security question is your mother's maiden name, yes? There it is. Uh-oh. Wild. Huh. Maybe we'll want to change that now. All right, so this is public knowledge. I guess if you really wanted to, you could go walk into a public records office for the county where someone was born. You can get a public copy of their birth certificate. I think that's allowed. Just costs money. Maybe that's not even a good thing. So yeah, this is definitely something to think about. Yeah, so all this stuff that you maybe thought was private, like when Phoebe Bridgers was first getting popular, her Wikipedia page for sure didn't have her mother's maiden name on it. And like now you have that. Crazy. So, great. Something to think about. Now, I would like you to go to this website. It is hitta.se, like hitta is I think how you say it. It's a Swedish website. It's like California Birth Index on steroids. All right, so please go there. It's hitta, which is the word for find.se for Sweden. So this is same idea, but a little bit more unfortunate or fortunate, depending on how you think about things. So let's look up somebody. I don't know any Swedish people, so let's look up the most common Swedish name. Like the version of John Smith in Sweden is Lars Anderson. So let's search for Lars Anderson and find a couple of them. So yes, let's see. Let's agree to all the cookies. Then I will search for Lars Anderson. Hit enter. There's quite a few of them, almost 10,000 Lars Andersons, and I don't know. Let's click on the second one. All right, so this Lars Anderson lives in Uppsala. Here's his phone number. Here's his address. Here is, let's see. If we scroll down, apparently in Sweden you have like a birthday and like a name day, like patron saint of your name or something. Let's see, you can send him stuff to his website or to his address. Let's click on another because it gets even worse. So yeah, we've got your address, we got your phone number. Oh man, where's the one that I wanted to find? Because sometimes it says like who's living at that same address with you. Oh man. All these new Larses have popped up. Or maybe they finally hid that. I'm just going to click on a few of them. But yeah, you got address, you got phone number, and it used to even say, depends here, like if they lived with somebody at the same address. It's like that's probably their wife or something. Isn't that cool? A bunch of Larses. Next page. Is that okay? If you thought California Birth Index was okay, is this okay now to have your phone number, to have your address displayed? Crazy. Yeah, this Lars lives alone, but others. Okay, that's probably where you're supposed to look. Maybe I should be looking for that. Come on. Lives alone. There we go. This Lars lives with someone named Marie, probably his wife. Crazy. And you click on her and get her address, get her phone number. Crazy. Okay, that's what I wanted to show you. How do we feel about that? That's just public knowledge in Sweden, which is kind of nice. Maybe like you don't like your address and your phone number is like not enough to tie things back to you. Like in this country, like the social security number is like the number you don't want to tell anybody, but it's also very easy to get. So in other countries, they don't do it like that, which is maybe better. Like you have more privacy, even though like nobody can. It's not as easy to impersonate somebody, even if you have their phone number. Like they don't give you the last 2 digits, but you could for sure keep calling, right? Weird. Okay. So yeah, I've shown you some potentially weird things. We even know the how much his house costs. That's the appraised cost of his house. Cool. Okay. So that's fun. Yeah, that's true. But yeah, yeah, maybe only if you're in one of those specialized fields should you have the access. That could be something to argue for. So yeah, we've seen some weird ideas. Now it's your turn to talk about it. All right, I'm gonna force you to think about this. So let's have a little mini debate. I'm gonna have you get into little peer instruction groups, please, and say hi to each other. Let me explain the question first, and then you'll elect a leader and go to the written ice page. So here, I'll clear it out, and please do attendance. I'll stop that after this is done. Let's have a little debate. All right, you're gonna get close to the people next to you, and you'll elect a leader. And here is your debate question. Should people be allowed to remain anonymous on the internet? All right, like should you not have to tie your name to your username or something? So I'd like you to write down 2 good arguments in favor of the stance I'm about to give you. So as usual, elect your leader, and your leader can press submit on a blank thing to get a group number. And then based on your group number, I'm going to give you a stance to think about. All right, so if you're an even group, I'll have you think one thing. If you're an odd group, I'll have you think another thing. So if you're an even group, you are pro-anonymity. Anonymity equals good. All right, and if you are an odd group, you don't like anonymity. Anonymity equals bad. So based on your group's number, pick one of these sides and write down at least 2 good arguments in favor of your stance. Like, give me 2 reasons why anonymity is good if you're even, and 2 reasons why anonymity is bad if you're odd. Do more if you can, right? That's just the bare minimum. But that is your goal right now. Does that make sense? All right, go off, get together, discuss, and show me your good ideas. Few more minutes. I hear some good thoughts. All right, I hear our voices starting to die down. Was that enough time? Let's take a look. A few of us have not yet pressed submit, so I'll give you another minute to press submit. Remember that it doesn't just auto-update. You gotta tell me. I see I'm starting to fill in. Let's do it. Let's take a look. Let us discuss. See what we're thinking. See which side wins, right? Even if you didn't agree, it's good practice to practice thinking about the other side. All right, so group 75, odd group, right? Anonymity is bad. One reason why it's bad is because people won't be held accountable. Good, yeah. You can say whatever you want if like it's not attached to your name. Like studies have shown that like people are meaner on the internet just when they don't have to put their name next to their mean words. That's definitely something to think about. Good. Another argument: people can impersonate other people if they are anonymous. Yes, yeah, it's hard to figure out who's who. Like you got those like blue check marks or whatever now, like that. You can sometimes even spoof those. So that's tough. Good. All right, an even group who said that anonymity is good. What do we think? So everyone should have the right to be anonymous. It can keep you safe, or lets you express your freedom safely. Yeah, that's true. If you have something to say like about your government, you do not. A lot of the time, if like it's something critical, you don't want those words to be traced back to you, right? So that's not how change happens, right? You should have room to be critical and not have and not be persecuted for it potentially. So that's something to think about. Definitely good. Personal data is protected. Less information to be used against you. Very good. Yeah, because then like people can just like print out all the things you've ever posted, even if you delete them later. That's hard. Good. Very nice. So yeah, let's read a couple more, two more. Another odd group and another even group. So bad, anonymity is bad because it allows actions without consequences. Yeah, so like people can do bad things and like never be traced back to them. Cyberbullying, yeah, same idea. Online harassment, exactly. That's prevalent in places where it's easy to like not give your real name because it allows you to be meaner, sadly. And then yeah, allows misinformation and lack of accountability. Good, yeah, because now you're not really sure where the sources are from, if this person who claims to be someone really is that person. Good thoughts. All right. Oh, we don't even have another even group. Even group said A. Sure. Anonymity might be bad, given that it allows people to get away with illegal. Yeah, just, we don't like bad people. Bad people can misuse anonymity for sure. But is that reason enough to get rid of it? Up to you. Should we control it in some way? Who knows? Yeah, any other thoughts about this? These were good ideas. Good things. All right. Yeah. I promise to stop that. All right. So yeah, interesting ideas today. Ethical dilemmas for sure. So yeah, are we good to switch gears into something slightly different? All right. Next, I want to talk about back to computer science a little bit more. Let's talk about the open source movement. Have any of us heard of that phrase, open source, before? It has to do with code, source code, people writing programs and giving their source code away for free. So yeah, when I say source here, it's short for source code, like the computer code to make programs. All right. So yeah, this will answer this question, I guess. This little mini subsection. Like, what can I do if I do not trust the software that I use? I don't trust it at all. So I want to peek into it myself. And then what if I also don't want to pay for it? Well, do I have a nice answer for you? You can use open source software, all right? Because then you can peek at the source code. You can make sure it's not doing anything silly that you don't want it to do. And then also it's usually free because they give away the source code for it. So yeah, let's talk about things that are open source. Or let's first say about things that are closed source, like PowerPoint. This lecture is in PowerPoint, and like Microsoft Word, the school gives that to you guys, right? That's all part of Microsoft Office. Microsoft Office. That is a closed source set of applications. It's closed source. That's the opposite of open source. Closed source. Because they're trying to make money, right? They have their secret sauce inside of their PowerPoint programs and their Microsoft Word programs. They don't want anybody to copy, right? Because Google Docs is a competitor. They don't want to know the source code. So when you buy Microsoft Office, you download the ones and zeros, the binary version of the program, right? You don't get the source code. I think it's called powerpnt.exe on my machine for PowerPoint. All it is just a black box. It's ones and zeros. It's very hard to figure out what was really going on inside of that, unless you do reverse engineering or something like that. So yeah, you get with closed source programs like video games as well are closed source. You don't get their source code, and you also have to pay for them, right? They're trying to make money and not give away their secrets to other people. So open source software is the opposite of that. They give their source code out to anybody so that they can freely change it and use it however they like. So my web browser, Firefox, is open source. Chrome is also open source mostly. This program that I'm using to record these lectures, OBS, is open source, completely free, made by people, and they can pick it apart. You can yourself look at the source code, pick it apart, see if it's doing anything malicious before you run it, just in case you didn't trust it. That's cool. So all the programming languages that we're going to learn in this class are also open source. Like Scratch is an open source programming language, so you can make your own Scratch with the default. You can change the default sprite to your pet or something like that. You could make your own version of Scratch if you want to, because it's open source. Same with Python when we talk about Python eventually. So what it means to be open source is all of their source code is available for you to use and change, and the programs themselves are free because you can just use that source code and make the program out of it. That's kind of cool. It's you get all the code for it, and you can look at it. You can build on top of it. Usually, it's all available. And so usually there's a little bit of lawyer speak in all of these open source softwares because the idea is if you make something for free, you give it away, make all the source code available. You want to make sure that anybody who builds on top of that also keeps giving away that stuff for free, right? because otherwise they could commercialize your idea. That's not okay. So there's often a source code license that just keeps things as they should be, but that's something to worry about. So yeah, like Python has a bunch of different open source licenses that kind of protect it from somebody like selling Python or something, because it's supposed to be free for everybody. So that's nice. It's nice that they're keeping that in mind. They have lawyers involved. Yeah, so like probably the most popular open source thing is called Linux. Have we heard of Linux before? It's an operating system, maybe. They have a cute little penguin as their mascot called Tux. But what Linux is an open source entire operating system. So Microsoft Windows, that's on all these computers. Mac OS by Apple, those are closed source operating systems. They're trying to make money off of them, right? They sell them. They make sure that like nobody has access, and so they can't look at and pick it apart and change it. But Linux is the opposite. It's open source. Anybody can install it on their computers for free, and anybody can see it, right? So it's an operating system, first of all. And so yeah, it's just like Microsoft Windows, Mac OS. It's what is an operating system? If you think about it, it's a program that runs your programs, more or less, right? So that's how I want you to think about an operating system, because that's what Windows is, right? It's a program that runs your other programs. It keeps everything in check. A program that runs programs. It's just making sure everybody's playing nicely, because I got a bunch of programs running right now, right? All these things. They're having a share of my CPU, and the operating system manages that. Make sure they're all playing nicely with each other. Okay? So yeah, it runs your programs. All operating systems do these things. Runs programs. It manages your memory, making sure that like all of your RAM is not filling up too fast. Manages memory. Says which programs get access to what. Memory. It manages your files. It lets you like drag and drop your files. It keeps track of your hard drive. And you're able to hook into it and use all that stuff. And stuff like that. It's at the backbone of everything. So you need an operating system on every computer. And yeah, Linux is everywhere. It is powering pretty much every website you've ever been on uses Linux, because otherwise they'd have to buy Windows licenses for every server on the internet. Nobody wants to do that. And it's also used in every single Android phone. If you have an Android phone, it's built on top of Linux. So you're running an open source operating system right now if you have an Android phone. And yes, every single website you connect to on the internet is giving you its content via a Linux server, just like our class website. Canvas, for example, everybody, because it's free. Okay, one of the most popular versions of Linux. They have different flavors because you can change them as much as you like. But if you take my CSCI 40 class or any other CSCI classes with me, I use Ubuntu Linux on my class servers. So that's kind of fun. But that's what's powering the class website as well, that server. So yeah, Linux is an open source operating system. It's like unfathomable. Like if you were to go in a time machine back to 1991 and just watch this all unfold, like everybody was paying for Windows, for Mac OS, for the other things that were popular at the time. Like it was not in anybody's mind to like give things away for free. Like open source was still like a baby movement, and it's crazy we've come so far, and like you get all this stuff for free nowadays. It's so nice. All right, so you should feel lucky about the time that you live in. So the people who like worked together with Linux, the ones who kind of paved the way, was an organization called GNU. All right, so it's short for, it's a recursive acronym. It's short for GNU's not Unix. So you can look that up. It's weird, but they don't actually. It's a circular definition. It's a joke. But their mascot is like a wildebeest, because in a certain language, if you pronounce it with like this kind of N, like this word, is sometimes like there's an animal, and you pronounce it like new, but they call it GNU with a hard G. That's all I'm trying to say right now. But what they did is they're the ones who are making the software that's running on these free operating systems. So, for example, let me just show this to you. One day you might take CSCI 40 or something. Here is like how people used to interact with computers. It's a terminal, and you can give it little commands, and it will show you things. So like all of the things that you could ever want to do on here, more or less, that you'll learn about in CSCI 40 if you ever take it, is made by these GNU people. It's built on top of Linux. So it's just a bunch of free software doing a bunch of things used to power Linux. And so if you're pedantic, you say that you're running not just Linux, but GNU/Linux, which is fun to think about. So yeah, if you ever take CSCI 40 or above, then you will learn about Linux, learn about GNU, and like it's all free and available for us to learn. It's wonderful. This project, like this dude paved the way for open source. Like he is like the grandfather of it all. His name is Richard Stallman. He is a very popular man. He has very strong opinions about things. It's fun to look at his Wikipedia page and read his ideas. But he started this GNU project, which kind of paved the way for open source software. He's a wonderful man, and we are all better off because of him. But he has very strong opinions about software. He does not use anything. He doesn't even use hardware. Like he buys open source hardware to run Linux, to run his programs. All right. He believes that all programs should be free and have their source code available, and he does it himself. He lives up to that. He makes sure he does not use Windows, he does not use Google. He makes sure to only use free software, which is interesting and very, very cool of him to do that. But yeah, that's who we have to thank for all of this, more or less, Richard Stallman and his very many ideas. So yeah, that's open source software. We get a lot of cool stuff for free. And but what about the stuff that you do pay for? How do you protect that? Because like all this stuff is meant to be given away for free. It's all very nice. But what if you what if you make your own software company? You make like a video game or some application that's a competitor to somebody else. Like how do you protect that? You get like a patent or you get a copyright, right? So we better talk about those things now. Let's talk about intellectual property some more, because there's way too many laws about this stuff to do it in just one lecture. So yeah, there's a bunch. I'm not a lawyer, right? I don't know everything, but I'll give you some highlights of the world of intellectual property. It's just a very long phrase, right? Let's talk about how can we enforce our copyrights and things like that. So what are the cases, first of all, when like you can use something that costed money for free? We should talk about that. Right? So that's called fair use, by the way. That's when you're allowed to reuse copyrighted works, like even if it's something that costs money right now, like a book. So, for example, let's see, what should I talk about right now? So actually, in the US at least, fair use laws, they're very utilitarian. You get to use a lot of stuff for free, even if it costs money. So, here are the rules for fair use, and so you can take advantage of this if you ever need to one day. You can use stuff that costed money, copyrighted stuff, for free if you just obey these kinds of bullets. There's more if you look into it, but like as long as you don't copy too much of it, you can make a copy, and then also your use should not keep the original creator of that work from making money. As long as you do that, it's fine. All right. So, for example, you can copy a chapter of a book and give it away. Have any of your teachers done that? That's happened to me in the classes that I took as an undergrad. So like, it is okay for a teacher to copy out of a textbook that you didn't buy, because you're never going to buy it, a chapter and give it to all of you, to everyone in the class. That is fair use. It wasn't the whole book, just a little bit, so not too much. And then you weren't going to buy it in the first place. We all know that. And so it's not keeping anybody from making money, even if it was out of print. That applies. That's pretty nice, right? You wouldn't expect that, but that's fair use. That is allowable. All right, so that's an example. Let's write these down. Examples. And so take advantage of that. Excerpts. How do you spell excerpt? I think there's a C in it. Excerpt. There's a C. Excerpts. It's a hard word to spell. From a book reproduced for students. So you can't copy the whole book, but you can copy a chapter. Totally fine. And then, you're all probably too young to remember this, but back in the day, there was no streaming for music. You had to buy music. Single songs you could buy, like on the iTunes store or places like that. You had to like buy your MP3s, then you put it on your iPod or whatever. So in order to figure out if you were about to buy a song and like to know if you were going to like it or not, you were allowed to double click it and play a little short clip of it. And you got that for free. You didn't buy the song yet. Does that make sense? That's also fair use. You get you're allowed to play a small clip of a song for free without paying somebody for licensing, like the radio has to if you play somebody's song. That's interesting, right? And so that's why, like, people in YouTube videos, for example, like, that's the reason reaction videos exist, I guess, because you're allowed to reproduce other people's videos for a short amount of time, other people's music for a short amount of time. That's fair use. Okay, so you've probably been on the receiving end of this, haven't you? You're allowed to reproduce, for example, music, videos, as long as it's just a short clip. Reproduce a short amount of music. Amount is fine. Let me write that legibly. Cool. Huh. Any questions, thoughts about that? That's pretty nice, I think. Though there's like a give and take there. Like, maybe the rights holder, like, if you made something and people were copying it using fair use, like, maybe you wanted the money. So, like, there is give and take there. But I think it's for the better, right? For the better of society. So now, with all this in mind, I have a game for us to play. Let's play Is That Piracy? I'm going to give you a bunch of ideas, and you're going to tell me whether or not you think it's piracy or not piracy. We won't go anywhere. You just, like, do a thumbs up if you think what I'm telling you is if it's piracy to do this thing, or give me a thumbs down if you think it's not. All right, let's say that you want to record TV shows, and you're, like, saving it on your hard drive or something. Do you think that is pirating the TV show? Do you think it's not? You guys got to play along. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Okay. Very nice, very nice. So, surprisingly, this is totally legal. They tried real hard to get rid of this. So, this may also be before your time. Do you guys know what VHS tapes are? Okay, good. So it's just like videotapes before, like, spinning discs came out as a way to store stuff. You could make, there were tape recorders that everybody bought, and you could record the TV onto tapes. And, like, that was the craziest, coolest thing at the time for, like, my parents' generation or something. I don't know. But that was amazing. And then all of the TV broadcasters were like, people are recording the shows, and they're watching them later, and they're watching them multiple times, and they're fast-forwarding over the ads that I'm trying to show and make money off of. I'm going to take that to court. And they won. The people who are recording the TV shows won. And so that is totally legal. It's you making a copy, like you're backing up things for yourself. That's totally allowed, according to the U.S. law and the court systems. All right, let's go have the next example. Let's go back to a version of, like, a video game console that actually used physical things, like GameCube. Maybe the Wii still had physical discs, right? Think about that. It's like, what if you copied a GameCube game, or like a Wii game, or some other more recent thing, using a DVD burner or whatever, like, it needed to be, Blu-ray burner or something? Is that piracy or is that not piracy? Ooh, we've changed our minds. Interesting. This is also okay. That's interesting, right? That's extra weird. So the reason this is okay and still fair use, or maybe not even fair use, it's just, like, not illegal, is that it's the same idea as this. It's the same idea as you making a copy of a TV show. It's for yourself. It's a backup.
So what if you, like, running it on
That leads into my next question. If you gave that copy to your friend, is it now piracy? Yes, no? Then it's finally not legal. So the answer is that your console still? Is that your second console? If so, that was a backup for yourself, and it's fine.
What if you're doing from
So you copied a game that you were renting. Is that what you're saying? That wasn't yours. So you didn't have the right to copy it. Yeah. Exactly. So there's a gray area there. I don't think anybody's going to ever hunt you down and try to, like, nobody will ever know, but, like, technically that is illegal. That's a little interesting. So this is very utilitarian, right? At least these ideas. Like, you're allowed to make a backup of your stuff as long as it's for you. Okay? As long as it's for you, it's okay, and nobody can come and arrest you for it. Which is very, very interesting and very, very cool, I think. All right. So that leads into the idea of like, I want to play my GameCube game on my computer because my GameCube is old and like I got water on it and it doesn't work anymore. So that leads into the idea of reverse engineering and making emulators for video game consoles. Because I assume that a lot of us play video games, or at least we have in our lifetime. So it's a good example for all of us. All right. So let's first talk about the idea of reverse engineering. I think I said that word once already. So reverse engineering is when you just like, it doesn't have to be a technical word. It doesn't have to deal with just computers. It's just like you have something, you're taking it apart to see how it's made. You're reverse engineering. You can reverse engineer a table if you want to. But a lot of people like to reverse engineer software. Take it apart, look at the binary to see how it's working, how to make it better. And courts have ruled in favor of reverse engineering entire video game consoles. So you can make a program that pretends that it's a GameCube, that pretends that it's a Wii. That is called an emulator. It's emulating that machine. All right. So emulator. That's when you convert your hardware to software. Computers are fast enough these days to like be able to pretend that they're a GameCube, pretend that they're a Wii or some other console. So that's kind of nice. And so yeah, the point of the court for allowing this process is that like people that want to run emulators just want to run their copies of things, and like the whole point of doing this is like the consoles aren't even being sold anymore, they're not being manufactured, and people want to make brand new games on this. Those are brand new creative works. Their goal is not to copy the hardware and resell it, so every emulator is open source. That's one way that they get around the law that way. It's like, all right, it's freely available, you're able to like run your backups, make new software to run on this old system. And so that's why you don't ever see paid emulators, because then those would be struck down for sure. You're not supposed to make money off of it. That was one stipulation. And so a very popular emulator, while we're on the topic of GameCubes and Wiis, it's called Dolphin. I forget if it's still around. Like Nintendo likes to sue people. They really do. But it should be in the green still. But this is a very popular emulator. You can take your copy of your GameCube game or your Wii game and play it on your computer, which is really cool. So, and that's totally legal, 100% legal, as long as you own the games that you're playing on that emulator. Cool, huh? Yeah. Have any of us used an emulator before? Yeah, maybe for older stuff. Very nice, very nice. So yeah, now you know the legality of it all. Awesome. So yeah, if you make something, sometimes you really want to make sure that people aren't copying it. Like you're on the flip side of this. Like you're the one making money. You want to make sure that people don't copy it. People aren't stealing it. People aren't pirating your stuff. So something called DRM got mainstream. And it's short for Digital Rights Management. And what it is, it's a bunch of software techniques usually that control how you use something. Controls the use of intellectual property in digital formats. So what I mean by that is like you have this thing, it's like a box called DRM. When you double click your software, you try to play your game or something, it like asks the DRM software, like a server somewhere, like, hey, can I use this thing? Like, am I allowed to? And so someone else is telling, like, it's like verifying that you own the thing. Can I use this? And then the DRM can say, yes, this checks out. This is legit. You own this thing. Or no, sorry, I can't verify. I'm going to disallow you from playing this game or whatever. All right. And so that allows the producer of the content to control the use of it. One easy example is like online textbooks. Like a lot of us has probably bought a virtual textbook. That is DRM, right? They're tying that to your account. You can't resell that online textbook, right? Like you could back in the day, right? You can't resell a virtual textbook, but you can resell a physical one. So that's why they're never making any more physical ones now that they know they can like get your money the other way. Can't resell a virtual textbook. That's unfortunate. And so this all is well and good as long as like this DRM software is working and kept up to date, I guess, for the rights holders. But there have been horror stories of video games that use DRM, and it's like you double click it, it asks a server somewhere, like, does this person have access to play this game right now? And the server has to respond either yes or no. Like you need to be connected to the internet to play your video game. All right. And then if the video game gets so old, the company that made it goes out of business, now that DRM server isn't going to talk to your computer anymore because it doesn't exist anymore. And so your computer is asking the DRM server that doesn't exist, like, can I play this game? Can I play this game? And it's not even responding. And so the game won't open anymore. This game that you bought and paid money for legitimately won't even open anymore because the company that made the DRM and the game itself went out of business. That's unfortunate. That's the flip side of that. So that's unfortunate, and something should maybe be done about that. I don't know. So if you guys ever become lawyers, you can look into that for me. Okay? So there's that. That's one way to control access. And also you can make patents. Like software is able to be patented for better or for worse. And think about it. Like the very first patent was like a machine that picked apart cotton or something. I don't remember from a history class, right? But like things that usually get patented are like stuff that's physical, like this thing that swivels or something. It's probably patented so that nobody can copy this design, right? So software can also be patented. But software I can't touch. It's weird. So like should you even be allowed in the first place to patent intangible things? That's allowed right now at least. Should you be allowed? Again, if you become a lawyer, now you can look into this. Should you be allowed to patent things that you cannot touch? Why? Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then they can't come around and make their own version of it. That's important. Like I don't know if any of us have used like a image editing software like Photoshop or something. Like Adobe's probably patenting Photoshop in the way that it looks. It's like the way you can use it and all the key combinations and stuff like that. Because if somebody would come along and make a free version of that with exactly the same stuff, because it's probably not that hard in theory, then they want to be able to sue for that. It's like that was my intellectual property. I'm the one. My company came up with the idea to put the bar over there and the window over there and all that stuff. That's another argument in favor of it. But some people disagree, right? Richard Stallman, very strong opinions about things. He has many thoughts about this. Go and read them if you'd like. But there's plenty of arguments for and against it. Here are the best ones that I could come up with. Like, if you're for software patents, what does that enable? It lets you, as a software creator, like if it's your company, it lets you get paid and make sure that nobody's going to like copy your software or steal it as easily, because then you have legal grounds to go and sue those people who are copying. Like, all right, you can point to your patent and say they're infringing it for this reason, this reason, and this reason, and give little screenshots or something. Like that's nice and good for you if you made the software, right? You want to keep it safe, keep it just to you. Yes and no. It depends, because usually you're not even giving away the code. You're just giving away the final double-click thing. That isn't the code anymore. That's just already been made for the computer. It's machine code at that point, not the source code. So that would be harder, but some people can. They're good enough. They're able to take apart your binary program and like make some changes to it. That would also be disallowed under this idea. Yeah, it's like should be my own. Nobody should be allowed to change it. Good. But yeah, on the flip side of that, there are plenty of arguments against software patents. Like just like freedom of knowledge, I think is an important idea maybe. And it's like, what is software? But like, it's just an idea. Like this program that I'm running is just somebody's idea, and I don't think that you should be allowed to patent ideas. It's like just words, right? It's words. I can make it too. I think that's the idea. Anybody should be allowed to recreate it. Maybe like if you want to make your own version of PowerPoint and put the little miniature things over here and put the main thing over there, like that shouldn't be allowed to be patented. That's obvious how it should be, right? It's fine. Just like the reason I should be paying Microsoft is because they give me something else of value in theory, maybe. All right, so yeah, that's just food for thought. And yeah, the last slide that I've got for us today is let's talk about search engines. Because if you go to Google or somewhere else, they are taking advantage of fair use laws quite a lot, aren't they? Because if you're going to Google and you're searching for something, what happens? Like you enter in your little search in the search bar, you click the little search button with the little magnifying glass or whatever, and then Google starts showing you a bunch of links and a little bit of description, a bit of the page, right? It shows you like little excerpts of the page. It's reproducing that page, is it not? They have to show you little pieces of what you're looking for to see, like, all right, yeah, that's the one I wanted. I'll click it. So they're reproducing a website and potentially reproducing copyrighted work. That's just a little snippet. So that's fair use, and so it's okay. All right, so it's very, very important. You could not have a search engine without fair use laws. Does that make sense? It's very, very important. So that's something to think about. And then the last thing, as far as anonymity goes, Google is going to track you all over the internet. There are plenty of websites that are search engines. There's like some of them are paid, meant to be better than Google, not going to track you. And then here's an open source kind of search engine. It's called DuckDuckGo, and it's meant to be privacy focused. So maybe you want to start using that one. It's not going to track you across the internet, in theory. Yeah, so I think that's the last thing I want to talk about. So like search engines, all the stuff we've been talking about today, we use search engines all day long, and they rely on all the stuff we've been dealing with today, all the stuff we've been talking about. All right, so they make our lives better. Any questions, thoughts about that? Do you want to change which search engine you use? Yeah, the last thing that I have for us today is, I have a couple things done. I have a new essay for you. This one will be due in 2 weeks. Plenty of time. Probably want to do it before the midterm, though, and I'll talk about the midterm after this. So here is your question, very similar to the kind of stuff that we talked about today. So here's your next essay. I'd like it to be 750 words minimum, please. And here is your prompt. All right, so let me read it. So customs officials at airports have asked travelers to unlock their phones before they let them in the country. Like if you go to maybe a different country, they might ask you to unlock your phone, hand it to them, so they can look at what's on your phone. Okay? What do you think about that? So that's open-ended question is your first question. Just open-ended. What are your thoughts? Do you think it should be always allowed for people to do that, for the customs officials at a country point of entry to do that? Should it be never allowed? Should it be allowed in certain cases? Take a stance and explain your answer, please. Talk about both sides of the argument for sure, because regardless of what you think, or if you're gonna say only certain cases or something, you have reasons, right? You better bash down one side of the argument and prop up yours or something like that. So you better talk about both sides. That's what makes a good argument. Bash down the people that disagree. And yeah, please respond in at least 750 words. And I would like you to do a little bit of research. Please cite at least 2 sources in your essay. Okay? So by cite, I mean you're either quoting or paraphrasing the document that you're citing, and you're putting a little parenthetical citation next to your cite. Yes? And you're going to have a works cited page or something to that effect at the end. All right, so 2 things to be cited, excuse me. And yeah, just remember not to cite Wikipedia. You can look this up at Wikipedia, but you just go to the links that Wikipedia cites. That's the trick, right? And yeah, I think that's everything. So 750 words about that, and 2 works cited pages. Questions about this essay? I'm excited to hear your thoughts. What do you think? Should this be allowed? Should it not be allowed? It is you going into somebody else's country. They have different laws. Who knows? So there's that. So that's available for you now. And then also, we are in week 6. So there are 17 weeks of classes, and then an 18th week that is finals week. So just the middle of the 17 weeks, what is that? 8.5. So we're going to have a midterm week 8. Okay, so 2 weeks from now is when it's going to be. I'm going to release this midterm module, all right? And I think I can just publish it and all the items. So you're going to come here eventually. So you're going to take the midterm in class. Let's go to the midterm info page first. And eventually, you're going to take it on campus. It's going to be here, but you'll take it in class. Okay, so here is your midterm info. The midterm will be the latest day it could possibly be. It will be during class time on the Wednesday of week 8. All right, March 5th. So that is 2 weeks exactly from now. All right, 2 weeks, the Wednesday, March 5th is when it will be. That's important. The topics that will appear on the midterm are just everything up to and including week 7. So like go back to the slides, start making notes. I will give most of the points towards an essay question. So like think about the essays that you've written and the stuff you've been asked to regurgitate. Make notes about that, and that will be kind of what to expect, similar to the things I've already given you. The one thing I can't give to you, here, let me tell you the format, I guess, first. The midterm is going to have like some multiple choice questions, some short answer questions, and then also an essay question, all right? The one thing I can't give to you are questions about Scratch, all right? Because we're going to like, this will be on Canvas, but you'll treat it like a paper test. It's like you can't drag stuff. It's hard to take screenshots even if I did let you go on Scratch, but I can't ask you to program on this test, all right? It's too hard for me to give you questions about that because like you'd have to go to Scratch, drag things, like it's very hard to turn that stuff in. So like I'm just not going to do it, okay? I will ask you to program on the final, but I will not ask you to write programs, physically write programs on this midterm, okay? I understand that? I'm not going to study that in theory, but like the ideas behind it you should study, but I'm not going to actually ask you to write your own programs, right? I may give you questions that have an existing program or something like that, but that's the idea, all right? So that's good for you, maybe, all right? And so, yeah, those are the things. I'll give you an essay on these topics that we've covered in lecture, and then I will then give you also some short answer and multiple choice problems on topics that I promise to only take from this little cheat sheet that I've made for you, all right? So here's a little cheat sheet. Once I talk about the format some more, you'll understand, but like, expect questions about these things. Wink, wink. Okay? Do you remember those? We'll have to go back and study, potentially. Like, use that to your advantage, okay? So, okay, that's what the test is going to be about. And you're going to take it on Canvas, but it's essentially a paper test. So you're going to think about it as a paper test. We just have computers, so we're going to save paper, all right? So it's closed book. You're just going to have to stay on the Canvas page, the quiz page, as you're taking it, all right? You are allowed one cheat sheet, one handwritten printer paper size cheat sheet with whatever you want to put on it, both sides, whatever you would like. Copy down everything I've ever said to you if you'd like, okay? You can use both sides while you're taking the test, and of course you can use as much blank scratch paper as you like, but nothing else, right? Just the cheat sheet. Does that make sense? All right, yeah, so use that to your advantage, and so if you want to use this stuff, as you should, please copy all of this down onto your handwritten cheat sheet, please. Can't print it out, okay? That forces you to study. Like, there's studies that show that if you write something, you learn it better anyway, so like it's a win-win, I think. Yeah, I think that's all that I want to say. So that's when it's going to be and what you can expect to see on it. Does that make enough sense to us? That's what you'll be doing when you just come to class. It'll be the only thing we do on that Wednesday. You'll have the full class time. Okay? All right. If we're good, that's all I got. That is all that I have. Start studying. Start asking me questions. And I'll be here if you have any.